What's up, domestic dads? Today, I'm excited to have Dr. Matthew Kettman, a family doctor and an expert in holistic wellness and testosterone therapy. Dr. Kettman also owns Evolve Aesthetics and Regenerative Medicine. I met Dr. Kettman in the gym, and today we sat down and had a conversation about his journey through life, how he became a doctor, and how his faith has evolved into what it is today. What you'll find in this interview is that Dr. Kettman has uncovered something to help people through some of the most difficult times in their life. Our conversation ranges from good diet and exercise to testosterone therapy and how it can boost your mental health and well-being. At the core of this conversation, what you'll find is that what you put into your body affects what comes out. This episode is packed with insights and practical advice. So join us for a discussion on personal growth and the science of testosterone therapy. Grab a mop because today we're cleaning up the mess. Has life gotten off track? Are you looking for some inspiration to be a better dad? People say all the time, I'd die for my kids. Okay, but would you live for them? Actually live? Get yourself healthy? Make better choices? Eliminate distractions? Would you lead them more intentionally? Would you get sober? Take better care of yourself, physically and mentally. You'd only have to die once. Your kids don't need you to die for them. They need you to live. Have you thought about getting sober, but you just didn't know where to start? If so, welcome to the Domestic Dad Podcast, your go-to destination for candid discussions on journeys into sobriety, parenting, and personal growth. I'm Nick Barnett, founder of the Domestic Dad Project. I've been a dad since I was 18 years old. I'm also a trauma survivor, an alcoholic, divorced, happily remarried, hardworking, humbled by life, domestic dad. On this podcast, you'll find interviews with people who have walked that path, including myself, coaches, mentors, and pastors who can help guide you on your journey. You're going to need resources and inspiration. You can find that here. This is the community for you to lean into so you can start living life as a domestic dad. So let's grab a mop and start cleaning up the mess. Okay. Dr. Matt Kettman. Hey, welcome to the Domestic Dad Project.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I'm excited too. So yeah, let's just start this off the way that I always do. So tell me what childhood was like for you.
Well, I mean, I had a great childhood. I really did. I had, two parents that were in the home at work, both worked. I have absolutely nothing to complain about in my childhood. I had a wonderful childhood. I learned how to work hard. Grew up in Gilbertville, Don Bosco, and that system, and I'm proud of that. And my parents are just good people. A lot of what I do and how I got here has to do with their influence. So a very, very great family. They're still out in rural Gilbertville. We get together, me and my brothers and sisters and our children, every Sunday, basically. So great family support. Decided, let's see, I was fairly academic, not so great at athletics. I didn't really hit puberty till I was probably 17, 18. Right? So I wasn't the awesome Don Bosco wrestler or football player that you've probably heard about, those guys, right? So I chose an academic career, and I was going to be an engineer. I kind of liked math and science, and then got a full ride to Marycrest University in Davenport, which didn't have engineering. Okay. And, my mom was an x-ray tech. My dad worked at Pepsi. And so, and I have periodically worked at Pepsi. My dad would help me out during medical school anyways. So I went to Marycrest, and they had biology and they had chemistry. And I was like, well, this is kind of scientific, And then I was a biology and chemistry double major. And then I had a math minor, and I was like, well, there's not much to do with this degree in Waterloo, Iowa. And I really wanted to get back to Waterloo. So I applied to medical school, and I said, if I get into Iowa, I'll be a doctor. So then I got into medical school. So then I went to Iowa, and then I got done with that. And I'm like, I don't really know what kind of doctor I want to be. They were all nice, all
Yeah.
especially. So Waterloo happened to have a residency in family practice. And so that year, 5 of my University of Iowa classmates came up here to that residency program. So it was just easy and natural to do that. And I had a great doctor growing up, Dr. Opheim, and I just thought, man, if I could be like that guy, that'd be cool, right? We really liked that guy. So he helped us. And I was like, yeah, that's what a doctor is to me. And so I'll go be a family doctor. And that's kind of how I ended up where I'm at. I don't have any traumatic stories of childhood. I had a great upbringing, which I understand not everybody does. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. I am happy and proud to say I grew up in rural America, middle class.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What'd your parents do?
Okay. So my dad worked at Pepsi as a route salesman, truck driver his entire career. Very hardworking man, great person, tough. And that's what I like in a man. He's hardworking, and that's kind of what probably the best quality that he passed on to me was teach me the value of hard work. Whether I wanted to play video games or I wanted to, whatever, work at a job that might have been easy. He was like, no, you're going to go bale hay or detassel or whatever. It's like, you got to learn the value of hard work. And so, just to tell you what a great dad I had when I was in medical school and we didn't have a ton of money, you're just too busy to work. Really, you can't have a job and there's no reliable schedule. But I would work at Pepsi here in Waterloo, and I would come up at like 9:00 at night on a Friday, whenever my schedule would allow. And I would wash the entire fleet, wash all the trucks. And my dad would come in after working a full day, stay up all night washing the trucks with me, not take any of the money. So just a great dad. My mom is very loving. My mom was an x-ray tech for Allen Hospital for many years, and then in a facility called the ADIs, CAT scans, MRIs.
Yep.
Yeah. So she taught me, directly or indirectly about medicine. And that's where I sparked my interest really in, like, how can I help people? How can we fix people? What is this cool thing that we do as these mysterious doctors, and this was exciting to me because my mom did some of it,
Yeah.
But my mom's just great. She still works for me now.
Does she really?
Oh yeah. She comes in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and actually the office just loves it because she's such a bright person and brings in this cheer. And so sometimes in medicine, you just slog through it because there's so much paperwork and so much negativity that's been added to it. It's like all the extra stuff. You just sometimes forget about the person right in front of you. And it can be a negative environment because there's so many regulations and all this stuff that's made it not near as fun as it used to be. The Marcus Welby doctor story that we all wanted to be that guy, it was a lie. It's now it's the, how can I shuffle papers and try and tell the patient that, hey, maybe you need this, maybe you want this, but your insurance isn't going to allow me to do this. And so we'll try and come up with something, it gets kind of negative. So to have my mom come in with this
big bright personality,
big, bright smile is a refreshment. One of the highlights of my career, actually. So
awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So one of the things that I heard when you were just unpacking that is that you went to Don Bosco.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So is Catholic?
Oh yeah.
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 Me too. Born and raised.
Are you really?
Yep.
Okay. A lifelong Catholic. I still go to mass every weekend. I've branched out a little bit from there. My wife is not Catholic, and she attends Hope City. And so
yeah,
I when she decided she didn't want to be Catholic anymore, wasn't being fed, or I encouraged her to go there because I'd been hearing so many things from my patients about it. And so it's not uncommon to find me at 2 or 3 services a weekend. I'll always be at a Catholic mass, But,
okay.
But
so you stick to the roots, but then you branch out.
I do. I try to get the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
But you just can't deny somebody like Pastor Q,
no,
or somebody like Tim Butker at NAS. And so if there's
John Fuller at PLC,
yeah, exactly, yeah. So why would you? It's kind of like. It's like if you're training for whatever and you've got this coach over here that can take your game to the next level.
Yeah.
You're not cheating.
Dude, that's exactly what it is.
You're not cheating. I mean, it's all Jesus, right? It's all Jesus. So I don't feel like I'm cheating anybody. Now have the multiple people that I've listened to, the tapes, the books, the Bible, has any of that changed my perspective, my view, my faith? Absolutely. I've definitely went from a transition of more of a very strict legalist, very, very much like if I don't perform, I'm not getting into heaven, kind of, this fear-based relationship with God, where it's like, he's gonna smite me down. I just did that. I better run to confession,
Yeah, and the only way that I can talk to him is through confession,
right,
with the middleman.
Right. So have I expanded that? Well, yeah. And actually, if you dive into the church's teaching, it's not that simple. So I think part of it was maybe my misunderstanding to more of a, man, you're actually free. You are free, right? It's free.
Yeah.
Literally, like if you can't earn your own salvation, if you can't do it because the effort, the price is too much. And I think all churches now teach that, you cannot earn this, right? This is not something you work towards. Well, if it's infinite power to get that to happen, and we can't do that as humans, how can we maintain it? How can we be responsible for this infinite thing that's like, hey, now I just did this thing that you could never do. Now, if you screw it up, you're done. Doesn't make sense, right? It literally is. God did it. How can we screw it up, right? So I'm kind of changing to more of a, hey, I don't have to worry about this. I can trust God at the end of the day
you have to,
and to do what he says, to say, don't worry about this. I got you. You are mine. No one can snatch you away.
You're enough.
You're enough. And don't spend your day worrying about, are you going to get into heaven or are you going to go to hell? Just believe, right? And it's that simple.
Yeah.
And so I've become very much more relaxed about it. And guess what? I think my fear was if I was relaxed, that I wouldn't strive. I wouldn't try to improve. But the truth is, I think that once you become free, you start to grow.
You kind of go palms up.
Yeah.
And
so it's not the
whatever
fear.
you got for me, man, I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
Yeah, but it's not you doing it. And I think that's the quandary, what's the word I'm looking for? The irony, the
irony is
the
good.
catch-22 of, hey, if we don't feel like we're not enough and not good enough and always pushing and always trying to be better, we're going to slack. But the truth is, no, you're empty if you're always that way.
Yeah.
You really need to relax, let him fill you for good things to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, that was a huge thing for me. We, my wife and I think this will tailor into our conversation here in a little bit, but back when I was drinking, my wife and I, we decided that we wanted to get pregnant again, right?
Yeah.
We had our first, and we were like, we want to do this again. And, I think that the alcohol and the things that I was eating was a major factor in where, like, when you talk about motility and counts and things of that nature, you're a doctor, you get that stuff.
Yep.
So what you're eating and what you're drinking and what you're putting into your body was actually diluting our ability for fertility. Now, so there's the scientific end of it. But when I got sober, the fog that was on me about my faith and where I was at in my life really started to dissipate and clear out. And my connection with God got a lot stronger.
Oh yeah.
As I got sober, and as I did that, I started eating better. I started exercising more. I started being just more consistent in my rhythms. We battled secondary infertility for like 4 years, right? I decided that I was going to get baptized.
Nice.
As a 41-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I got baptized when I was 7 in the Catholic faith, but we go to PLC, and I decided that I was going to get baptized then. This was a month before we went on our last vacation to Orange Beach, Alabama. And right before we left, my wife was like, I'm just going to take a test to find out where I'm at in this thing. And the test came back positive. That week I got back, I got baptized. And then, dude, check this out. So we go in we've had miscarriages and things like that. So we go into the doctor for the 3-month appointment. We hadn't told anybody. It was just me and her. Right. So we were very skeptical on whether or not we were going to tell anybody ahead of time, which we didn't. And the lady who's doing the ultrasound for us, she's like, okay, so here's your due date. Hands us a piece of paper. What is it? It's my birthday. So if that's not a gift from God for getting clear, getting connected, dude, that's.
I love that. I love that. See, I'm very much, my wife says I think too much about signs and the way stuff, but it's like when there's a miracle, it's like you can't ignore it. Right?
Dude, yeah.
And they happen every day, so I love that story. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think this conversation is going to play into some of the health stuff, and I kind of want to start unpacking some of that. So
100%.
Where do you want to start?
First of all, we met through John Church he was my Christian life coach, still is, great guy. But he kind of introduced us, and we actually were both at this expo. I was doing a speech on testosterone replacement and hormones and some of the alternative thinking that I promote when it comes to your hormones, as opposed to, the traditional medical education. And you were promoting this podcast. And so that's where we interacted. But I think a lot of your listeners, and the reason I reached out to you or you reached out to me, I think a lot of your listeners would be interested in the current status of nutrition. I think there's a lot of things that we can talk about that they may or may not be asking their doctor, or their doctors may not be telling them about, different things that I want them to hear. And I'm sure you all have, I'm not going to slag on any doctors whatsoever. These are just things that I've learned that I thought I want to get out there. And so maybe it's a conversation that you can have with your doctor that may be a lifesaver, maybe a game changer. And then if your people, the people that you serve, the fathers that you serve, which I think is awesome. I love this podcast. I think if there's some messages about their health that I feel like I can guess that they would want to hear about how to improve their health or how they feel, or easy ways, biohacking, peptides, whatever you want to talk about. So I just want to be like here's an hour and a half or two, whatever it is, of a medical encyclopedia kind of guy that you can throw ideas off, and not just, here's what the medical literature says, but here's what I've seen. And I'm not going to take away from what it says, but I've had better luck with this kind of, conversations. I just want everybody out there to know that, look, okay, unless you're dying of cancer or heart, whatever issues, if you don't feel amazing, okay, then we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the message I want to get to people. Like, if you're out there struggling and you're saying, I just don't feel good, and I've tried this and I've tried that. Well, what could be the real issue? Because my mission in life is, like, if you're not feeling amazing energy, then we need to figure out why. That's not normal. You should never be told, like, go to the doctor and say, well, I'm really tired, I just feel, well, it's because you're old. All right. Yeah. So there is no age at which you just all of a sudden it's okay to feel like crap. Okay. Now, if you've got, terrible health, COPD, heart disease, and all this other stuff, you might not feel well, but that doesn't mean you can't feel better. Yeah. But for the most of us walking around, like, literally, I talk to guys all the time who are like tired and sore and don't sleep well and gaining fat, even though they work out, they're hitting the gym. They think they're eating right? I used to think I was too, right? But they feel terrible. They're walking around feeling terrible, and they're wondering, how am I supposed to do what Nick Barnett is talking about, living that life, and feel better than I did when I was drinking or when I was, So I want to help that message to get out. Yeah.
So I'll show. Okay. Yeah. That's a dude. So here's the thing. He's calling. You're a doctor, and I'm like, hey, dude.
No, I prefer that.
Okay. All right, cool. So here's the thing. I just started working at, my buddies Jay and Jesse are like, those are my brothers, man. They were like, they've been trying to get me in the gym for a little while.
Great guys.
And they were like, just come. And I was like, dude, you guys are in there at 4:00 in the morning. There's no way that I can consistently get there at 4:00 in the morning. However, I made the sacrifice and I went on day one, and they, those guys are, I don't know, two of my favorite human beings on this planet.
Jay Barber's my barber, and just a cool dude.
Yeah.
And knows, he knows his health. It really does.
Yeah, he does.
He can tell you about what he's done with his diet and whatnot and his workouts, and he's looking good, man. Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah. So I start going in there, and I tell him, I'm like, I think it would, and I'm not used to getting up at 4:00 in the morning and going and working out for 2.5 hours. Okay. Yeah. That's not a normal thing for Nick to do.
Okay. So when I saw you there at the gym, that was not your normal.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. Now it is. Yeah. I mean, it's become more consistent, and it's what I wake up and I'm excited to get up and get out there every single day. I
love that.
But in that, within the first few weeks, I'm going in there and I'm like, dude, I took 3 naps. This is hard. Like, I don't know how this is going to be sustainable. And Jay goes, he's like, hey man, he's like, you ever had your testosterone checked? And I was like, no, should I? He was like, yeah, but like, how are you eating? You know? And I was like, well, you know, I eat like a guy who works out for 2 hours a day and has whatever he wants throughout the day. And he's like, so there's some issues with that. And I've gone on good diets before, but I don't think that like a diet is sustainable forever.
100%. And if you want to talk about obesity and weight loss today, I would love to just get one message. If you guys just remember one thing, there was a big study a couple of years ago, and it looked at 14 diets. I think it was like 100,000 people. It was somewhat of a meta-analysis, looked at several studies. 100% everybody can lose weight for a couple months. Nobody is able to sustain that for a year.
Right.
So diets over and over and over again, we have proven they don't work. So why are we spending billions of dollars doing Weight Watchers and all this stuff? And that, in my opinion, and I do a lot of weight loss. I do help a lot of people with weight loss. In my opinion, that is because that anything restrictive to something fundamental that you need for your body, like eating, anything restrictive is going to deplete your willpower, right? And we're not God. We don't have infinite willpower. So literally you are just, every time you say, no, I'm not going to have that McDonald's. No, I'm not, you are just saying, I'm a little closer to giving up. Right? Because you're using willpower. So it really has to be about habits. It really does. And you can't make not eating carbs or not eat whatever your diet is, carbs, low carb, keto, or calorie restriction or fasting. You cannot really make that a habit. It's willpower. And so you really, I promote people, get into healthy eating. Rhythms. Exactly. Rhythms. Get into what I'm not going to eat. What am I going to aggressively pursue? Like, I want to eat healthy stuff. I want to get full on healthy stuff. I want to get full on protein. I want to fill up on water. I want to get these things that make me feel good. So I eat less of it without using willpower.
Yeah, but at some point throughout the month, I'm going to have a mental break and I'm going to smash a sleeve of Oreos. That's going to happen.
Please do. And feel okay about it. Just know that but once you might change your mind after we do a deep dive today. If we start, you might change your mind after you find out. Well, you already kind of know, but it really comes down to, when we talk about weight, and let's just be honest. Okay. Americans struggle with weight and obesity more than any other industrial nation in the world. Right. And what is the difference? Are we just all fat, lazy people? Like, do we just inherit? Is it all video games?
Some days I feel that way. I'm fat and lazy. Why can't I get off the couch?
Well, and I agree. I 100% agree. But literally, we are ingesting, without knowing it, thousands of chemicals that we didn't sign up for, that we didn't say, hey, when I bought this, whatever cookie or whatever processed food, I didn't just want the flour and the sugar that went into making this. Please give me preservatives, pesticides, herbicides, microplastics, and you just down the whole, literally chemicals that it seems like we know less about these things than we do about even like the COVID shot or something. Right. So we're literally, the game's rigged against us in the weight loss world. And so I do believe that at least part of why America has a huge weight problem, a metabolic problem, an obesity problem is because of the poisons in the ultra processed food. I think if America did not have ultra processed food, look at us, look at before ultra processed food. Obesity 100 years ago was so rare that if they found one, the person would be in the circus.
That's a true thing. And you think about how people ate back in the day,
right?
Or like, if you want to say 100 years ago, like we hunted for our food,
right? And
we got to eat like straight from the source, right? We didn't have a whole bunch of factories producing, to your point, preservatives, packing a bunch of flour into things.
Right.
Men and women ate because they went out and hunted or they farmed.
Exactly.
And that came from the soil.
Yeah, 100%. And so it was really, as we started to get into how do we make more, bigger, better, faster profits in our food, that we came up with things like, ultra processed sugars or ultra processed flours or seed oils and these kind of things, to the point that seed oils are the number one source of calories for many Americans now. And so now all these things that we weren't necessarily made to digest are the majority of what we digest. And most of the stuff that we want, direct to plate, direct from farm to, with no chemicals, no middlemen, nothing even from the time that seed is planted, no pesticides, no herbicides, because literally a lot of these things are acting like estrogens. Okay. So we're boosting our estrogen on our men with things like microplastics, with things like pesticides, things that boost and change our hormones. And so I live this life, like literally work out all the time, make no gains whatsoever, try and change your diet, not really knowing how to, in America, get away from all that stuff. And you're literally fighting, hormones. You really are. And so it's almost impossible.
Yeah. There's been a lot of documentaries, and I've paid attention to some of these where, just think about it, like the chicken farms, they've injected so much hormones into those chickens to process them through. And then also, if you're not, I think one of them, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like, we can't stay in business because of the regulations.
Correct.
And in order to keep up with the regulations, we have to put so much bullshit into these chickens to the point where it's completely unhealthy. They can't even stand up.
No,
because we grow them so fast.
It's the system. Even if you're an American farmer who wants to do, just straight to plate, organic, however you want to do it, the financial incentives are against you to do so. Our whole system is set up to achieve processed food on our plates for quicker profit. Don't even get started about, the health inequities. And like, if you can't afford food, then there's no way you're getting clean food. We've made it so that our processed food is way more affordable than our good food. All right. And so the DAC is literally stacked against us. So the first thing I want people to understand is that maybe it's really not your fault that you're struggling with your weight. Maybe it's really not, maybe it's just our society, because a lot of what you eat is illegal in other first world countries, like in Europe. Me, full on disclosure, I love Diet Mountain Dew. I just love it. It's an addiction of mine. Okay. It's probably
Oreos for me.
Yeah. It's probably my last vice. Okay.
Have you seen the comparison chart of like how much sugar?
Oh yeah.
Is it like they take it and they monetize it down like to just sugar inside of it, like each one of these different things.
Yeah.
And like water is 0.
Right.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is like a Diet Mountain Dew, and it's like a whole bag full of sugar.
It's insane. Right. So literally, if there's one takeaway that I want you to get from nutrition 101 here today with you, is that sugar is the devil, right?
Yeah.
So sugar and ultra processed sugars and these kind of things that, just even like cane sugar, right? This kind of stuff, it really is a bigger cause of any sort of heart disease, inflammation, chronic illness type thing than fat. Even though we thought for many years that fat and meat and red meat and if we dive into that, you're not going to get it in any history books, but listening to places where I think the real news is now is podcasts, right?
Yeah.
The unfiltered, unpropaganda type news. It's like, no, the who's, the FDA, the scientists, the food industry that sponsors this, literally poised sugar in a good light and beef and meat and fat in a bad light as the cause of a lot of our vascular problems, when it was exactly the opposite. So there's a lot of corruption, and that's kind of why we believe things we believe now about the food pyramid, about, what's important. And it's almost to the point when you dive in, you're like, I think we almost need a restart of how we think about food. And, eggs, boy, they said they were bad for years. Turns out they're great, right?
Yeah, we can't go on something that was put together 60 years ago
for marketing
what a healthy diet consists of, after we've evolved like scientifically and from a data input standpoint, where like the macro data on all of this stuff is so much.
100%.
You could totally retool that and be like, okay, here's the actual truth.
Right.
Versus what what we can get today for the actual truth versus what they had access to 70 years ago when they came up with the food pyramid,
right,
is totally different.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be a great thing to retool that.
Well,
and maybe even for your patients, and say, here's what I recommend for a balanced diet.
Right. No. And I think we're starting to catch on because of guys like you, talking about this, promoting healthier lifestyles, because you really can't have this conversation without addressing the elephant in the room. Is like, okay, do this, eat more veggies, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it doesn't really matter if everything you eat has some chemicals on it, right? Even the veggies, So, it does, but it's been so long that we haven't talked about what's actually in those labels. When you look and you buy some vegetables, and it's not just vegetables in the product label, right? So what's going on here, right? So what is sodium benzoate or one of these other crazy chemicals? Why is this in my food? What does it do to me? Do we know? So that conversation, it's about time we had it. And I think I heard, Robert Kennedy Jr. really takes an interest in this. Yeah.
Where he's talking about soils and nature and all of that.
Yeah, I like that guy. So I really like that guy, regardless of politics, because he does not care what the food industry says about him. He didn't even care whether he was right or wrong, totally different subject. But when he had that COVID book, to me, he comes out this Anthony Fauci book, and you can think whatever you want about COVID shots or COVID. Is it real? Was the shot good? Was it bad? I'm all over the board. I hear opinions on that all day. Right. But just to say a politician who takes a very controversial stance right in the middle of his career to write this book, which everybody, including his family, disowns him for it. That says a lot about a person's integrity. So I respect that guy. I really do. So I think when he speaks of, the food industry and how we're being poisoned and our children and their health, because let's face it, our children are as unhealthy as they've ever been, right? I mean, we have more diabetes and depression and fatty liver in our teens. Like, it's crazy. Like, it went from like 1% to pre-diabetes. Like, I don't even remember. I'm just going to make up a number, 20%. And so he's actually willing to stand up against these big, firms, these point out these awkward relationships between, for instance, Coca-Cola donating a lot of money to the American Diabetes Association, and just what's going on here. What's, and just stand up to this altar that we have our children on, that we're sacrificing to this food god, this machine, at the risk of his own career. So regardless of politics, I respect that guy.
Yeah,
I do.
So let's dip into that a little bit, because you, how do I want to? So typically when I do podcasts, I talk with people who have traversed, addiction and gotten into sobriety and come out the other end. And I think that a balanced diet kind of plays into sobriety, where food addiction, right, leaning into all of the bad things that you can eat and put in your body, have caused, to your point, mental health issues.
100%.
I think that we don't address this enough as to what we eat can also be an addiction.
How far do you want to go down that psychological rabbit hole? Because I mean,
take me a third of the way and we'll find out how deep we want to go.
Okay. Well, first of all, we'll just talk about some basic facts that it's hard to get around. Okay. Whatever's happening in society, if you want to call it the video games or if you want to call it the processed foods, okay, I'm just going to make up some numbers here, but literally, so I've heard like 20% of our adolescents have fatty liver now. Okay. That was less than 1% many years ago. Okay. Depending on how you define diabetes and pre-diabetes, more than half of our adult Americans are pre-diabetic. That's insane. Okay. Mental health is like no other. Like, we didn't have these kind of issues, or at least that we know of, okay, back 30, 40, 50 years ago. And we all know that, right? There was no school shootings and just like mental health and abnormalities and people having problems with mental health is the norm now. Like, you're meeting people all the time who it's almost like, you're not on Prozac, I'm on Prozac, and so our mental health crisis, we all know that's a thing, right? What's changed, right? Well, a lot of things, but there's a lot of people who think, hey, stop the trade. Infertility, 1% per year, we're declining. Infertility. Okay. If there's anything that's a sign of a robust, healthy society, it's their fertility rates, right? Totally being compromised. Our testosterone has gone down 1% per year in our men. Our men don't feel like men. Okay. They're literally not. They're being emasculated. Okay. They're slowly being turned into non-males because they have literally, I think since 2000 to 2016, I think the average American testosterone went down like 100 points. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah. So literally, if you're not seeing the results in the gym, there's reasons, right? And somebody's somebody like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is just coming along and saying, well, I wonder if there's a coincidence between all these things and how we're suffering as humanity here in the United States compared to other countries. And what's the difference? Well, I mean, there's some differences, definitely, but we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world, but we don't have the best outcomes, not even close, right?
Yeah.
And so somebody is saying, well, wait, what about all these thousands of chemicals that we don't seem to know that much about that we're taking in every day in this food that we don't even have a control over? I mean, literally, like, it's so deceptive, even if you try and read labels. I just heard the other day that if a cow or a piece of meat is grown in another country and shipped to America, they can say, take the package off, put processed in America. All they do is repackage it, and now it's officially okay to say made in America. So we don't even know what happens to all this stuff before it makes our, table. And so I think it's just now we're just starting to realize that maybe we are being poisoned.
Well, okay. So I've made a conscious effort lately to try to start eating better, right? To get rid of the Oreos, to just try. Yeah. There's a Hy-Vee right down the street. Hy-Vee is our grocery store, yes. Right? That's where we go. I walked in there and I'm like, okay, put together a healthy meal for tonight and for the rest of the week, right? Dude, that's challenging.
Very.
Have you done that? Like, do you do that? Like, when you go shopping, is it challenging? Because there's so many times I want to grab something jarred, grab something grab something out of the freezer section that's preservatives packed, right?
I mean, how far down this rabbit hole do you want to go? Well, first of all, full disclosure, by training, doctors are probably the worst people to get dietary advice from. If they know anything about real nutrition, they probably learned it on their own. Okay. So I didn't have a nutrition class, very little taught there. Number one. Number two, most of my training was funded by Big Pharma indirectly. Most of the dietitians, a lot of their training, I've heard is sponsored by the big food groups, and where does that come from? Well, I mean, some people say that the big food groups are actually mostly owned by places like Philip Morris and RJ Reynolds. These cigarette companies are the ultimate owners of some of these. I mean, like, I guess in the 80s when we were going after them for cigarettes really are bad, they started buying up food companies and moving some of their scientists into that process. Like, instead of getting people addicted to instead of tobacco, let's figure out how to make food cheaper, more expensive, more addictive. Now, is that true? How far do you want to go down the rabbit hole? I mean, that's something you look up yourself. Okay. So this process of asking me what's the right thing, I can't even tell you. My wife knows way more about nutrition than I do. And she's actually opened my mind because as medical doctors, we're very arrogant about that. When I was in medical school, like, if you were to come to me with a patient that was, having all these struggles and in any way suggest that we consider their diet as something other than a trivial aspect of, this stuff that they're taking in every day, all day, it was almost like insulting. It's like, we don't go to 10 years of school to, so you can tell somebody to take Oreos off their plate, right? I mean, that's basic 101. Like, that wasn't even worth talking about. Like, we need to talk about these complex processes and these medicines and how, and it's like we overlook the simple, like the basics, the fundamentals. So number one, if I give you any food advice, it's not from my medical training, right? This is anecdotal on my own, listening to people like my wife, who's literally kept my table as clean of preservatives and chemicals as you can in America, and does a wonderful job like that. So first of all, where are you getting your information? Very difficult to sort out who at the end of the day is telling you this and why, and if they're correct. Because even as looking at all these books on nutrition, it changes. Like, literally it changes. Like, keto is bad, keto's good. Eggs are bad, eggs are good. Carnivore is bad, carnivore is good. All these different diets, vegetarians and vegans, amazing. And now maybe they're having some health issues. And it's like, what do you believe?
So I can tell you from experience, I've tried the keto diet.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
So, I didn't read enough about it before I started. I was just like, I'm just going to go shopping and I'm going to buy a bunch of meat and cheese and sour cream.
Yep. Sounds great, right?
Yeah. It was like, oh, fantastic. I'll have like a bacon wrap with, all the time. Oh yeah. It was great for a little while. And then like 2 weeks in, I was like, shit, I have a lot of plumbing issues. right now. Like I had like
Yeah.
there was like and so I started reading and it was like, you need to like supplement your potassium and your magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did that. And honestly, I bet I lost 25 pounds within a month after I like kind of got through that like part of it. And it was awesome. I felt good.
You were metabolizing ketones and fats instead of, sugar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My concern or what happened was at some point, your innate craving for carbs and sugars will get you and you'll fall out.
Yes.
And then when you fall out, it's very hard to get back in.
Yeah.
And then all of the progress that I had made kind of went by the wayside. And I was like, well, gosh, I don't want to go through the hard parts again. So I found it unsustainable.
Agree. Have I tried it? Oh yeah. Have I ever just said, I'm not going to read anything about the keto diet. I'm just going to buy a bunch of bacon. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it drives my wife crazy. I'll come home with a big grocery bill and then I'll get 3 days into it. And I'm like, here you go, honey. Here's all this meat I didn't use.
Yeah, this is stupid.
So, but I've had some really good luck recently. I've been messing around with the carnivore diet because I keep hearing I've had a number of patients who are coming in, just talking about the mental health benefits of carnivore. Okay. And so like, you ever heard of Jordan Peterson? Okay?
Oh yeah.
So he's been on the carnivore diet for 5 years and he says it changes mental and physical health more than anything. Now he's strict. He is literally like lamb and beef only. But that is unsustainable to me. The best I've found and what I'm doing currently is, Dr. Saladino is Carnivore MD. You can look it up, but he promotes, mostly meat, but he allows honey. He allows dairy, and so he allows fruit. Okay. And so it's a modified carnivore. It's not going to be as rapid of body change as meat and water, obviously, where you're in ketosis, but it makes it very tolerable for me to have some berries and cream at night with a little bit of honey in it. It's almost like ice cream. It hits my, so that's where I'm at now. And I have to say, I do feel mentally and physically better on this diet, but the people that I've talked to are like night and day difference. And that's what Jordan Peterson says too, like carnivore. But I've heard the same thing when people go vegan. I've heard that they feel a lot more clear, a lot more, more motivated, more energy. But, anymore, like you were talking about sobriety, I used to like beer too. Right. But just get to an age where it's like, I'd rather feel good in the morning. Right. It's just not fun. It's not worth it. And I'm at that age now where I'm interested in any sort of biohack that I can do that's going to make me 1% better. That's going to make me, just a little more energy to get through the day.
I think what you said right there is just, it hit me. 1% better. You think about the way that a football team runs plays, right?
Yeah.
If we just tried to hit the Hail Mary pass,
right,
every single time, we would lose every game that we played, right?
Absolutely.
You don't have the assets in your body to throw a Hail Mary pass every single day. Right. Do something to get 1% better at a time, right?
I love that.
Figure out how to run the ball and get 10 yards every single time. That's the move, right? How can I do that consistently? And then every one of those little 1% or those 10 yards at a time are going to stack up and get me closer to the end zone.
I love this. So we can go even take this to a religious standpoint. The doctrine or the idolatry of self-improvement. Okay. It's like, I'm going to get myself better by just going all in, doing this crazy diet, starting Monday, New Year's Eve, here we go, you're going to fail, right?
Yeah.
If we could get over that, our addiction to need to do these radical changes and then radical change and failing, if we could actually take lessons from compounded interest, take lessons from our investing partners, that recommend, hey, the value of time, the value of small change over time. So literally, think about this, 1%, every week, 1% every week, that's 52% in a year, right?
Yeah.
So who wouldn't love to be 52% better in a year as opposed to multiple 100% changes that didn't work, right? So what is a 1% that you can take away today that will make a difference in your life? There's tons of them. Okay. So literally just health hacks, I'm going to eat 1 apple a day for the rest of my life, starting the habit this week. It's going to take some of the space in my gut and a little bit less Twinkie, a little bit less Oreo, right?
Yeah.
Little things like that. 1% things change everything.
Yeah. And I'll even tie that into sobriety.
Yes.
Like I tried to make the Hail Mary pass so many times throughout my life, right? Like I was like, gotta get sober.
Right.
Failed every single time because I tried to go too hard into drastic change. Now, the last time that I did it, I stayed sober, right? And that's because of all of the attempts that I had made and knowing what I could do and what I couldn't do.
Yes.
And, you know, eventually, like you do make that drastic change. But it took me all those tries, all those data points to understand if I slip here, I'm done. If I slip here, I'm done.
Sure.
It's like you had to learn the moves. You had to figure out how to navigate that puzzle in the dark, if you will. You know what I mean? Yeah. And know where the turns are in order to get through it perfectly.
Well, and even if you want to transition into sobriety and addiction, I'd love to speak on that. So even the I mean, your mind's got to change. You can't do it. You really, most people can't just stop. Okay. Most people, they have too much of a messed up relationship in their brain with the substance, with any substance. You want to talk about alcohol, nicotine, whatever. But literally when you try to, I mean, by the nature of addiction, when you try to limit it, when you say, I'm going to cut down to just the weekends, all of a sudden it becomes the most valuable thing in your life. All of a sudden, when I can have it at any time, when I can just drink whenever I wanted, or when I can just smoke whenever I wanted, no value, like no big deal. It's just part of life. Okay. It's kind of like that. What did I hear that one time? Sex and air are they're the most important thing in the world when you're not getting them. Right. Right. Okay. But when you're getting them, it's no big deal. You take it for granted. Right. Same thing. If you all of a sudden make alcohol or any chemical a little bit less accessible, so I'm going to restrict it, in your head, it becomes 10 times more valuable. Like, I'm looking forward to Friday night. Well, now it's going to be more difficult by cutting back. It's going to be more difficult to quit because you just said, this is so good. I can't wait till Friday night. I'm going to hit that buzz or whatever it is that you're searching for. And now you've went 3 or 4 days without it, or same, I guess with sex, same with about anything. You restrict, where you hold back this kind of food and then you have that steak. It's more amazing. In your head, it's valuable. You have not learned that it's not valuable at all. You're not learning that it's a poison. So even restricting can actually work against people trying to get off of a substance like alcohol. So I totally get you, but you have to, what's actually happening is that are you getting more in control of it? No, you're growing. Okay. You're growing, you're understanding, you're learning a little bit. I look at it as building a muscle. Absolutely. You're learning that life is, because I think one of the major ways that addiction works is fear. Okay. People who are addicted to whatever it is, and everybody alive is addicted to something, right? Just psychologically, I'm addicted right now to getting up in the morning, right? My wife told me I had to, I hope so. I love getting up at 4:30 or 5 and going to the gym. And so when my wife tells me I need you here tomorrow, I'm like, I'm like in withdrawal. I can't do it. Like, I'm addicted to getting up at 4:30 or my day's not going to go right. Yeah. Okay. So addictions across the board. Okay. We all experience them, but I think fear is what keeps us away from making progress away. Fear that life without that, I don't know what that looks like. That's scary, right? I don't know what a sober life looks like, and I don't think I could do it. It seems to me that this addiction, part of what it does is it creeps into our head and says that you really can't live a normal life again. That's not for you, right? You are literally going to be nobody without, name your substance, alcohol. You are literally going to be bored 24/7, a miserable life. You feel after 1 or 2 days without your substance, that's how you're going to feel the rest of your life. And so you get these miserable drunks. Okay. These are people who quit 10 years ago and they're still, I wish I could have a drink. They're suffering. But that's not the way to get around it, right? Yeah. You're literally, I think the most successful people getting sober, the most successful people giving up a substance are the people who finally, at some point, God gives them the clarity and they realize that, hey, this stuff's actually making my life worse. There is no better. That's just a trick. That's literally like when I talk with smokers, okay, and I talk about quitting smoking, okay? So literally, you live in this place, okay, where you think that when you take a hit of nicotine, that you're getting an edge over everybody else. Like, your normal is right here. I get a little buzz. I'm thinking clear. I get a little energy. So you think you've got an advantage. Okay. But what you don't know and what you don't remember is, no, you're getting back every time you take a hit of cigarettes. You're living under where everybody else is already living. So they're at a 10. You get hooked on nicotine. you're living at a 7 and you're constantly trying to get back to where everybody else
Yeah.
is. So you're not chasing a high, you're chasing feeling normal like everybody who's not addicted is. So it's literally I don't want to say that word. It screws with your mind. I won't use that swear word. Okay. But it screws with your mind literally to make you think that everybody else is bored. Everybody else has a lame life. You've got an advantage because you're getting this substance that gives you an edge.
Yeah.
But it's literally, you're just trying to get back to where everybody else lives and where you used to live just fine without any substance.
Yep.
That's how addiction works. One of the books, one of the authors that I like to recommend for people who are struggling with any kind of addiction, I like Alan Carr. Okay. So I recommend some of my patients go check him out. He literally helps you. It's easy way to quit smoking. Alan Carr's easy way to quit whatever substance. He's got, I think, a drinking. I think he's got, food addiction, caffeine. Literally, he reframes addiction in your head to make you understand that, no, you were complete before this substance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. It's 100%, 100% accurate. And I think what you said at the end there, you were complete before this, is what everybody misses because they've gotten so ingrained in their head that they need that to be them.
I mean, it would be so easy to quit any substance and go through with the withdrawal, even the nastiest substance in the world. But the addict's brain isn't like, it's not like so you take somebody who's addicted to alcohol, they're looking at the heroin addicts and saying, those poor suckers, it would be so easy for me to quit because obviously heroin's bad for you, but your brain is poisoned. So even on the level of understanding that your life would be better without this substance, it's compromised. You can't even generate the will because you don't even believe it. Most addicts that haven't quit generally don't believe, bottom line, that they will be better off when they get rid of the substance. They don't believe it.
Yeah. 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 So let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
And talk to me about TRT, testosterone, and how you see that factoring into day-to-day life for guys.
100%. I think,
or anyone.
I think it would, to understand the state of where we as a society are at with testosterone replacement, I think it'd be best to start basically with my personal journey. Okay?
Yeah.
So in medical school and up until just a few years ago, honestly, testosterone replacement was something that bodybuilders did to cheat, right?
Yeah.
This is something that's doping. If there's an Olympic athlete doing this, I remember, there was an MMA fighter who tested positive, so admitted to TRT, and he was arguing that this is what he needs for his day-to-day happiness and health. And his opponent was like, now he's a cheat, right? And so I grew up really and learned really with the establishment that, and most of the medical societies and establishments still believe that testosterone is not necessary in most people to supplement, right? But that has changed a lot for me, and I'm starting to see why. So literally, how did it happen for me? Well, I've got a partner. I've got Evolve Aesthetics, and it's in addition to my family practice. And I have a partner, nurse practitioner, Crystal, who helped me start that, right? And we joined forces. We each had small regenerative medicine aesthetics businesses, but she said she wanted to start doing bioidentical hormones. And what did this mean? Well, it means putting pellets in people with hormones like testosterone to boost their hormones. And I'm like, what?
That's fascinating.
This is crazy. I'm like, but you go ahead if that's what your passion is. You want to learn it. To me, that was not cool. Okay. And I was telling guys that were coming to me like, hey, I'm suffering with all these low testosterone symptoms. And I'm telling them, well, sorry, your testosterone is normal. Can't help you. Right. This is supposed to be bad. This is supposed to be bad for your heart, maybe cancer. We don't really know. Bad things. Right. And so that was my mantra. And I turned down a number of guys that I have on therapy now over the years that will point out that, hey, I asked you years ago for this, right? Fine. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. So literally, like some of these people who are in my family practice who knew that I had a stake ownership in this Evolve, right, were getting pelleted, and they were coming back to me and telling me like they didn't want to take all these antidepressants anymore. They didn't want to be all these, I've always had a fascination with like, you should not be tired and unmotivated. That's not life, right? And what does that take? And so people come to me achy, tired, moody, not sleeping well, grumpy, marriage maybe on the brink,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm like, here's some antidepressants, here's some sleeping pills, here's a stimulant if that doesn't work, here's a downer if you're too wound up from that, you know. And these cocktails, and yeah, we'd make big improvements in some people not so much, but they're medicated on pharmaceuticals, right? Well, these people were all of a sudden getting way better. I couldn't ignore it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe there is something to this. Maybe it's not just placebo. Well, is it dangerous? Well, and I just started kicking around in my head. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How can a middle-aged guy, and I'm not, please do not take this as anything moral or political. This is just a statement of my opinion and my fact. I was struggling with how, you know, when the trans thing started to become bigger, how can this testosterone replacement hormone stuff be okay for an adolescent girl, female that wants to be, you know, wants to transition to a male? How can that be safe and okay there, but not okay for the guy who's 50, who's tired, achy, irritable, marriage on the brink, just feels lost, feels like, you know, depressed, anxious, can't sleep, sore, just working out all the time, but not making any gains.
Exhausted all the time.
How can it not be okay for that guy? Right. And so I just started kicking it around in my head. So is this a healthy thing? Is this not a healthy thing? Is it healthy for some? Is it healthy for others? Well, then I went and I just had it done myself. I said, I'm just going to do it. So I got pelleted. Okay. And wow, I just felt so much better. It changed me. It changed who I am. I'm down, not because testosterone makes you lose weight, but literally I started feeling like taking care of myself. First time, right? First time in many years. I said, let's go to the gym more. Let's worry about what I eat, because there's something to be said about when you're working out an hour, 4 or 5 times a week, and you're just look the same after years. What's going on? Is this fair? Well, then I had my mind blown when I realized that as a society, we have the lowest testosterone rates we've ever had in an industrial nation, as men and as women, in history. Okay. And that people started telling me, now I have never verified this. They started telling me things like, hey, our parents had twice our testosterone levels. Look, and these are lectures, you know, that I started paying attention to. Look at pictures of the beaches in the 60s and 70s. Look at it now. Like we've all seen these memes, like this guy that was the fattest man in the world in the early 1900s now that's just common now, right? And now we start seeing all these things we talk about, this obesity, these mental health issues, right? And then I started diving into, well, why is it harmful to replace this? Or why is it, you know, and when you change it from this is everybody's fine to, and this is a hack for cheaters, to no, everybody's not fine. We've had our testosterone levels taken away from us. You know, we've had because of the poisons that we eat, because of all these chemicals added to our food, a sedentary lifestyle, all the things that have happened. We are literally walking around with a testosterone deficiency epidemic. Okay. And when I started to feel better, my sleep got better. I started to have interest in libido, sex drive again.
Yeah.
My energy got better. Who I am started to change. My confidence got better. I felt good. Like I didn't, you know, my workouts started to actually work. My body started to change. My wife, who was against me doing testosterone at any point, and I had tried there's a bunch of over-the-counter stuff you can take, and it never, if anything, it made me moody and angry. It never really did much. When I finally got on testosterone pellets, my wife changed in response to me, and our relationship changed, and our marriage changed, because who I was and who I was bringing to the relationship 100% changed. I said, I got to go train on this. I went, I learned about it. My philosophy is 100% changed. And now where I used to come from is completely different. I used to say, like, here's the range, 260 to 900 of testosterone.
I wanted to, let me unpack that real quick. So when you started, there was no deficiency in your testosterone from a medical standpoint.
Okay. So
in terms of that, like that range.
So I was, good question. So the majority of people I treat don't have a low testosterone.
Okay.
So a lot of people are going to their doctor, they're getting checked. You don't have a low testosterone, insurance isn't going to cover this, right? Yeah. Or you don't need it, right? And literally, let's say the cutoff is 260 to 900. So literally you're walking in there, 259. Okay, I'll treat you. 261, I won't.
Oh.
Okay. So what does that mean? So I had to unpack that too. So that's a range. That's literally where like 95% of guys lie. Okay. It doesn't mean below that is bad or above that is bad. There's plenty of guys under 260 who don't need any testosterone because they feel amazing. Okay. And there's guys who exist over 1,000 naturally. They're playing football, whatever they're doing. We don't castrate them to get that level into the range. Right.
Right.
So this is a normal range. So in my mind, it was like, okay, you're living at 350 or whatever my value was, lower end of the range. Okay. And you have all these symptoms, right? How do we not know that 10 years ago you weren't 800, right? And still in the normal range, but suffering. And why would I deny you that? It's not like sodium. It's not like potassium. Literally, if you come in the hospital and I'm taking care of you, and if your potassium goes under 3.5, I'm concerned. I have to get that up right now. We're going to have heart problems. That's not like this. We don't do that with testosterone, right?
Yeah.
It's just where do most guys live? And it's 100% variable across the board. So somebody, in my opinion, somebody could be 261 and suffering terribly because they're used to living at 800 or 900, and so to tell people that this range, you need to be a low testosterone, I changed from treating a number to treating the patient. So I said, well, how about this? If we're starting to find out that testosterone is actually healthy, if we know that lower testosterone is associated with more heart disease and cancers than higher testosterone.
Yeah.
We're starting to see that maybe TRT, like we're paying for having lower testosterone in our society, not only physically, but mentally. If testosterone is a good thing, and it's looking like a lot of the studies are supporting that TRT is a healthy thing, a really good thing. In fact, a lot of our longevity experts is like first line.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you bring that up because that's where my head goes immediately. Right. So like similar to fad diets and sustainability, first of all, okay, number one, and I don't want to like unpack like pricing and things else like that, but like here's if insurance doesn't pay for it, like first of all, then you're paying out of pocket, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and then number two, longevity. Is this something that you as a medical professional would recommend long-term stay on this forever? And what are the repercussions of using it and then turning it off or getting to a point where you can't afford it and then having to turn it off? What are the risk factors?
Great question. Well, if we're going to just talk all in TRT, okay, testosterone replacement therapy. When we talk about hormone replacement therapy, women or men, there's a number of hormones we can talk about. Thyroid, vitamin D B12, vitamins, estrogen, estradiol. But the workhorse for men and for women is testosterone.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really what we're talking about. So I'm just going to talk about testosterone.
Perfect.
Okay, for women and for men. So number one, everything that I believed that was harmful about testosterone that I learned when you go back in the literature, it didn't bear. Okay. It actually the opposite appeared to be true. I used to think it was a risk for heart disease. Recent study. This is not alternative literature here. Recent study. Giving testosterone to high-risk vascular patients with heart disease, okay? These people took it for a number of years, recent study, and they didn't do any worse, okay? So it appears not to be harmful at a minimum.
Okay.
Secondly, we know low testosterone is harmful, okay? So we literally have this awesome population of people who have had prostate cancer, and we have to lower their testosterone because in theory, it helps prostate cancer not grow to lower it, okay? Okay, well, that's
that sounds like a good idea.
Well, you got a prostate. Prostates can grow in response to testosterone. So maybe the cancer will stop growing if we make you a eunuch. Basically, if we take you, well, it's called ADT. So it's basically we're inhibiting all of your androgens. Okay. And so by taking those people, we can look and see what happens when your testosterone goes low. So those people have a lot more diabetes, a lot more heart disease. Their cholesterol gets worse. They get tired. Talk to anybody that's had prostate cancer that had to take a hormone suppression. It's miserable.
Yeah.
They're tired. They're gaining weight. They're like most of us feel, right?
Yeah.
But not to that degree. So we know that low testosterone is associated with more heart disease. Okay. In fact, we used to think it caused prostate cancer. Now there's studies that say that higher testosterone people have less prostate cancer, and lower testosterone is actually a risk for prostate cancer. So even the prostate cancer, which was maybe a concern. I'm even seeing Mayo continue testosterone on people once they get diagnosed with prostate cancer. But what are some of these health benefits? Well, we know it regrows bone at up to 10% per year. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Wow.
Okay. Especially as we head into our elderly years, falls, fractures, osteoporosis, huge cost to healthcare. I mean,
that's the number one cause of death
yeah.
at it, like in the elderly is like you slipped and fell.
Yeah. We know testosterone will lower your LDL cholesterol. Okay. Now, individually, it can also lower your good cholesterol a little bit, but it appears with these studies that we're starting to change our tune. It's look like it's vascularly healthy. Is there any risk? Some people believe that the synthetic testosterone that you buy at the pharmacy, the testosterone with a molecule added, testosterone cypionate, that these things can cause more blood clots. That may be somewhat true. I've never seen it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen with all natural testosterone pellets, but I still use a ton of test sip on people. Okay. So it appears to me that everything is starting to change. We're starting to see that testosterone is healthy for longevity. Okay. And I bear that out, not in any study I'm doing, but the people that I treat with testosterone are noticeably healthier. Okay. They're slimmer. They have less fat. Okay. They're way more motivated. They have way less need for antidepressant type medicine.
Yeah.
Their marriages are thriving. Okay. Especially if you get men and women who have forgotten that it's normal to desire each other.
Yeah.
And not this constant fight of I'm not interested, but I have to do it or my husband's going to get angry, which I think a lot of your guys probably are living. To actually see a couple, for instance, I witnessed with myself and my wife, who were both on testosterone now. Neither of us are ever going back to go from a very on the brink. I mean, we were never going to divorce because we just love each other that much. And we're such good friends.
Good Catholics.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I am. My wife's not, right? So she's not Catholic. So yes, I would never get divorced even if I hated her, right? It's just because I always believe that's not what you do, right? I mean, Jesus literally says we don't like divorce in the Bible, right? But to go from the person that could think like that to no way, because we're so intimate and she desires me and I desire her, that's the way it was actually supposed to be back in the garden or even back in the last 100 years, blows my mind. I am a witness to the miracle that God had when he designed men and women to love each other. Okay.
So what you're saying and what I'm maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the foods that we've incorporated into our diet, the things that we have started consuming have lowered our test. And when you incorporate the TRT or the testosterone back into the diet, the desire for sex grows and we can have healthier marriages.
I would say they normalize.
Okay. Yeah. All right. There you go.
I believe that. That's me. That's not the industry, but I believe, bringing in the Christian standpoint here, I believe that the current status of 50% Christian, non-Christian of divorce rates in America, I'm throwing out there, maybe it has something to do with our lower testosterone, which comes from the food.
In
poisons.
theory.
Yeah. All at the price of cheaper food, right? And more addictive food and profits. Okay. So how far down the rabbit hole you want to go? Because did Satan have something to do when he attacked the family that he was going to get processed? Did he know that? I have no idea. But listen, all I know is on a day-to-day basis, I've seen multiple marriages, because literally you might hate each other and you're never having sex and you're just holding on. What does it look like? I'm not saying sex is the answer. I'm not saying forcing sex against your will is the answer. I'm not even saying that testosterone is for fixing your marriage. But I've seen a number of people, especially when both couples get on it, when their desire is restored, how much it improves the relationship. You can't imagine. I mean, imagine that if you went from one of these relationships where there is no desire whatsoever to both partners now interested in each other, how much easier it is to talk about the bills when you're not sexually frustrated. How much easier is it to agree on parenting when you don't have
significantly.
We don't have this agenda in the back of your head is she doesn't really love me because she's not giving me sex. And all he wants me for is sex because I don't want it. And he doesn't understand because I birthed his children. And no, how about why do I not want sex? What happened there? When did that become a thing? When did society, like women, get together and just say, I can't believe my husband wants sex. And that became a thing. It's on the TVs, it's on the shows, it's on the radios. I hear it talking about, when did it become okay for a husband to not want sex, right? When did it become okay for, hey, instead of why are you wanting this all the time? And this isn't normal and blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute, take a step back. When did it not become both of us wanting it? right?
Right.
That's actually a sign, like libido is a measurement of health,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Of physical health, mental health. And one of the symptoms of depression, low libido, one of the symptoms of any physical aspect, any disease, diabetes, whatever, you might experience some decrease in libido. It's a marker of health.
Yeah.
So did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
Nailed it, so to speak.
Yeah. So do I promote testosterone for everybody across the board? No. There's definitely some people who don't need it. They feel great.
Yeah.
Why would we do something when you're killing it? You don't come see me, right?
Yeah, you have a balanced diet.
Yeah.
You work out, you do all the things that you need to do. You sleep well at night. You're not struggling to get.
But basically, what is testosterone for? Is there longevity benefits? I believe so. Absolutely. Is there health benefits? I believe so. If somebody came to me and said, I have done all my research, I want to be on TRT just because I think I'll live longer, have less heart disease, less Alzheimer's, blah, blah, blah. I've done all the research. I don't need it because I feel great, but will you put me on it because I know the health benefits are there? Even if the majority of the medical people don't agree that TRT is a good thing, I would say, okay, yeah, I would. I'd talk about it with them. I'd make sure they don't have any, contraindications. Like I'm still not, even though we know that it doesn't cause prostate cancer, I'm not comfortable giving it when there has been prostate cancer. I'll work with somebody I have people who have been on treated.
It's not the Hail Mary pass that you're looking for, but it is a health hack that gets you 1% closer to a better life that you can live.
I would say that's a severe underestimate.
Yeah.
So like it's probably the biggest game changer I've had to offer my patients in 10 years. It's really, I cannot believe how, I know I get flack for being the testosterone doctor. Okay. I did not ask to be this guy. I just started going down this rabbit hole and people just started showing up. Hey, to get pelleted at Evolve or to become my family practice patient and just do with the testosterone cypionate. Right. But I'm happy now to take that mantle on because I used to be scared of it because I don't want to be the guy that's going against endocrinology and the guy that's going against urology. And I know I have colleagues in the medical system who think I'm a quack for this, but I'll take the appreciation that I get from my patients over it any day. I can't stop now because people love it so much. They feel so much better. I've heard just too many stories of people saying it changed my life. I was lost and now I don't want to say I'm found, but I'm not Jesus, but and testosterone is nothing like what Jesus can do for you, but it literally has restored so many people to health and how they were able to get off this and the individual journeys. I predict in 5 to 10 years, everybody, either they're going to change the food, okay, or many will have people on testosterone 80, 90% across the board on adults because we're just finding out more and more positive things. There's still a lot of people in the medical industry who disagree with me, and that's fine. I think that's fine. I was there. And maybe they'll never agree. It's not just me. It's a movement, right? But I invite that. I invite anybody to question that. I have papers. I have studies that I believe. I have a lot of anecdotal stuff, lots. And I would bet that every single one of your listeners has at least heard of someone who's gotten testosterone and how much better it made them. But go ahead and ask.
Yeah. I am all about having tools in the tool belt to have a better life. And I think from what I have heard today, that it is certain, as a guy who has not used testosterone before, as a viable option to put in my tool belt, should I, want to try it?
I mean, I think it's getting to the point where, okay.
I didn't know this was readily available. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the thing. And everybody's like, what? You can take testosterone? Oh, that's a steroid. Oh, that's a cheat. Oh, that's chemically bad for you. All this other stuff. Those are all the stigmas on the product that you have.
Well, let me clarify some myths about testosterone.
Okay.
So first of all, it's not only the drug that makes you horny, right? So I think a lot of women are scared of their husbands getting it because they're going to turn into these, hormone fueled. Yeah. I'm going to have to really put out. Well, I understand that, and it does the libido increase, sure, but if that's your fear and you're not wanting your husband or yourself to do that, rest assured that most people, even just one partner getting testosteronized, it seems like it is improved. They're going to show, maybe they will be a little bit more, randy, but they're going to start showing up as someone that you're going to be attracted to. So don't be afraid of that, right?
Okay.
Number one. Number two, it's not just for men. So most of my, I have a lot. Some of my best responses are to women getting testosterone because it's,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So women, first of all, they do make testosterone. It's the most abundant sex hormone in the woman. Okay. A lot of it gets broken down and changed to estrogen. That's aromatase. So literally, this testosterone, we used to give a lot of postmenopausal women after they have a hysterectomy or go through menopause, we put them on estrogen. Well, then there was a big study that said that's dangerous. Okay, maybe breast cancer, maybe. Well, that study was flawed, but take it or leave it. Testosterone does not increase your risk of breast cancer. In fact, it lowers it, I believe. Okay, but women will all of a sudden, they don't become masculinized. They become like they used to be 20 when they were 20 or 30. So they have libido again. They start to have vaginal secretions again. So that dryness goes away. Their desires there, their energy is better. Their mood is better. Their brain fog is less. They start losing fat and gaining muscle in a good way, not in an Arnold Schwarzenegger way, right? Even their anatomy, the female anatomy starts to become more receptive to pleasure. So because of the atrophy that happens, the loss of tissue and sensation. So some women just don't feel good with sex because their tissues are dry and shriveled, basically, to make a long story short. Testosterone starts to make them groomed for being receptive to pleasure, which might not have even been a possibility just because of how we've been affected by our hormones or just from going through menopause. So they start to get primed to feel like it. And every woman I talk to that's had this done, who might have been afraid of their libido returning or what that would mean to their marriage, doesn't want to go back. I mean, I've had a few that maybe didn't like how they felt and aren't doing it, but the majority of people are coming back because they feel so much better. So it is for women. It is for men. It's not just for men that want to be big in the gym. Myth number 3, this is not road rage anabolic steroids. Okay. This is another big myth. Now, this people think they're going to be angry. I will say you are more assertive as a man. Okay. And you are a little bit more aggressive. You're definitely a little bit less likely to take shit. And you're definitely a little bit less likely to tolerate some BS. But honestly, I think that's how men are supposed to be. You know, I used to be a wallflower. I used to be a pleaser. I used to be, I'll just say whatever you need me to say to like me, right? I don't really care about that anymore. And I have to say some of it has to do with testosterone or just who I've become since I've started it, right? I'm a little bit more ready to confront. I'm not looking for a fight, but I'm not afraid to say what I believe, okay? And so it's bringing out, and my wife would say that's who she always really wanted, you know? She didn't want this guy who was just going to show up and say, hey, what are we doing tonight? Hey, what are you making? Hey, sorry about that. I'm just going to go over here and be, you know, emasculated in the corner. She wanted the guy to show up to help make decisions. Yeah. I just didn't feel good enough to.
Yeah.
So it is not road rage. If anything, testosterone is a very calming effect. So most of my guys, now big changes in testosterones tend to cause some road rage, moodiness.
How do you regulate that?
Well, you don't let it rise and drop real fast, right?
Yeah.
So it's about how you take it. Most people, like if they get on a system a couple days in, they might have a little bit of a swing if they're used to low, but actually it's low testosterone that causes more anger and mood issues than consistently high. But big changes, like when I first started pellets, I felt kind of moody. Okay. But then within a week I was fine and I've been way more calm ever since. It's been over a year. So a lot of myths. Myths that it's harmful. It's not for everybody. I will have to go through your contraindications, you know, and you got to weigh it out. It's not just like a vitamin that everybody can take. So there's definitely some concerns, but for the most part, a lot of people, men, women, adults can benefit from testosterone. Yes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Now, you want to talk about affordability? I think I should mention it. Okay. Yeah, it is accessible to everybody. It really is. Okay. So I understand that insurance, they weren't really fond of it for a long time and they would require too low levels. And then they might with a prior authorization, you know, with GoodRx, with the coupon program, or just I work with Greenwood a lot to give cash prices. So people are paying for their testosterone monthly with the needles to inject once a week or twice a week. We're talking $50 a month, maybe. So totally affordable. Okay. Yeah. Now that is the synthetic. Okay. That's testosterone with a molecule added, whether it's testosterone cypionate or whatever. The all natural, where I take pure testosterone made from a plant, okay, and put it as a 4-month or a 3-month supply under the skin, usually of your buttock. That just lasts for 4 months. The pellets, that's what the pellets are. So just putting a 4-month supply under your skin and every 4 months having that done, so you don't have to shoot yourself every month or every week. I mean, that's probably more in the range of a couple grand a year with blood work all in. But a lot of people choose that because it's all natural and they don't have to do the shots. And a lot of people choose that because Like if you wanted me to give you testosterone cypionate to have that conversation, to go through and see if you're a quality or if you're a candidate, you'd have to become my patient. Okay. That's a controlled substance.
Yeah.
You can't see me for that and see Dr. So-and-so for your blood pressure. Like I gotta own that. Right. But at Evolve, where we don't really deal with insurance with this aesthetic center, you can keep your doctor and still come and get pelleted. It's a little bit more pricey, but the results, there's not so much up and down. It's literally 4 months or 3 months of a consistent level. And for, what's that work to? A couple grand a year, 200 a month to feel your best. Small price to pay, if you ask me. So I do think it's affordable for everybody. Certainly if it's low, a lot of times we can get insurance to cover it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah. So I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. I feel like we've had like a really great conversation, and not only a conversation, but also a viable solution for things that, the listeners could benefit from.
I think so. I mean, it might not be for everybody. It might not be the answer to you, specifically you out there who are listening. There's probably a lot of other issues, but it's a good start. And hey, feeling good is huge.
Hey, if I'm okay.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to think it's the end all beat all to your problems, right?
No, but let me ask you this. When I was in the final stages of figuring out that I had to get sober or I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I decided to make that change in my life. Like, let's rewind back to, May 20th of, a couple days into not having drinks. And I'm like just in the, I'm low. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm going through it. From a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint, my body's detoxing. And I walk into your office and I say, I'm going through it and I am not feeling well. I'm more tired than I've ever been. I'm anxious. I'm this. Would you prescribe testosterone in that situation?
I very well may.
Yeah.
I very well may. I mean, obviously you've got the bigger issues of getting rid of these demons, right? But chances are, your
test level is probably very low at that point.
Alcohol suppresses, marijuana suppresses. I should probably talk about some of the natural ways to raise testosterone.
Yeah,
which I will. But yes, I very well may. Now, would I ever say that testosterone is a treatment for alcoholism? Well, there's nothing that shows that. Okay, but literally. I can tell you, I've had a number of patients, anecdotally, no studies, who decided to quit drinking after getting testosterone. They started to feel really good. So that has happened. I do not promote it as a way to get off. But yes, just because you're in the throes of feeling crappy because of some disease process, whether it be diabetes or alcoholism, that I can't give you testosterone. That's like somebody who needs it more, right? What are you going through? You're suffering way more than anybody around you probably is, because not only do you have all this physical stuff going on, you've got this addiction, you've got the mental chaos that goes with that. So what would I normally do for that person? Well, first, obviously you can't just stop drinking. If you're super heavy, you got to detox a little bit, and you got to do that safely. But it's probably ravaged your hormones. It's probably ravaged your testosterone. So you probably do need testosterone more than a lot of people. Now, I'm not saying it's a treatment for alcoholism,
right?
But part of you getting better, if you ask me, is restoring you. And if that means your hormones at that time and you still keep drinking, am I going to say you can't have testosterone? No, I'm going to get you feeling better and then show you a little buy-in about how taking care of yourself and working on the stuff that actually does help you is going to make you make better choices about how. So there's no contraindication, but it is kind of a loaded question, because someone who comes to me at that point is really literally in the pit of despair. They really are. I mean, we know that's a launching pad for suicide, right? They're at rock bottom. And it's testosterone. I mean, what would I say? Most of them need Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Most of them need Jesus.
100%.
He's the one that's going to make the miracles happen, right? I'm just one of his tools, right? But no, I would not deny that. And I might encourage that to help them in recovery, because I believe personally that they're going to have a way better chance of grasping that lifestyle change if I can get a little buy-in about making them feel better.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I
know you're probably getting towards the edge of how much time I can talk, because I can talk all day.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No, we're doing good, man. Honestly, like I guess we have identified so many things as problematic in like just our culture, the way that we eat, the way that we, exercise, whether there's a lack of it. And I guess just from a medical standpoint, what are your solutions?
Well,
Obviously, testosterone can play into that, but
it's your
what else? Give me. We've identified the problem. Give me a magic wand and fix it.
Well, first of all, knowledge is power, right? And so your people need to know what's out there. Okay. And doctors nowadays are just so busy. They can't take the time to tell everybody exactly everything they need. I heard one estimate for family practice that if you're hitting 50% of what your patients need from you, you're doing a good job. Okay. So there's just so many things, right? But I want people to be aware of their resources, right? I want people to be aware that testosterone is an option. I want people to be aware of what they're putting in their mouth, maybe making the rest of their situation worse. But those are 2 hacks I have. The gym is huge. Okay. The gym is huge. So literally there was a big study, I think it was Australia 2 years ago, and they compared, huge study. Okay. They compared exercise, antidepressants, and counseling for anxiety and depression. Exercise won big and bad, like 50% better than meds, 50% better. So really you've got some tools in your hand. And if you're not working out, I highly recommend that. For guys, I recommend weights. I love weights. Okay. I think guys need on some level. I mean, maybe if you want to run, those are all good things, but I think that weightlifting is getting more and more credit for that it deserves for the type of exercise that you might benefit from, especially as we get older. We need less cardio. We need more strength and bone, strength. So we're not falling and breaking stuff as we get older, because that's a big risk. So exercise, diet. If you're hitting the gym, I do, there's a lot of longevity biohacks. I like creatine. I think that's beneficial. I think people feel better. I think they get better results. I think it's pretty safe unless you overdo it. Okay. But I think 5 grams a day or less is fine. I think a lot of guys feel better on creatine and get better gym results. Okay. I think sleep is huge. Okay.
Yeah, I think sleep is the most important thing.
So huge. Okay. So yes, but I also think that it's tied into what we eat. And so, a lot of the processed foods and some of those chemicals mess with our sleep, right? They mess with our hormones, which mess with our sleep, but sleep is huge. Like if you're not sleeping well, talk to your doctor. Because I think I've even heard some longevity experts say that if you had to choose between diet, exercise, and sleep, that sleep is king. Like that's how important it is, right?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of times if you're not getting sleep, it's because of all these other processes, right? There's something else going on with your health, right? So I think sleep is huge. I like, if you're looking for body hacks, biohacks, mental, I like sauna. Okay. There's a lot of good data on sauna coming out of Finland, Sweden and stuff about longevity, about overall well-being. I love cold plunges. Okay. I belong to 3 gyms, really, Rock and another one that is Mud Advertising. I just go there because my buddy.
Yeah.
But I also,
they have a sauna in there.
They do. I love it.
They just put that in.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then and I've done some speaking at Mud. He does a great job taking care of his people. But then Brian Wingert, the realtor, also has my gym, which is west of Cedar Falls Target Center. It's a private gym, meaning you're the only person there when you're there. So you have to reserve your time, but it's good because they have a cold plunge there. And so I'm doing a 42-degree plunge 4 or 5 times a week for 3 to 4 minutes. And I think there's a lot of data that shows that there's some health that it's starting to show, but you just feel good, So I like that. I like routine. I like making habits that you do every day. I like go to bed at the same time. I like getting up at the same time.
Consistencies.
I like eating some of the same things throughout the day in your pattern, right? I think spirituality is huge. I think none of this is really possible without God. I mean, you can flail along and do your best as a human, but probably the biggest changes in my life have all been Jesus granting me that change. So I think that's absolutely huge. And if you're missing out, even if you're not a believer, even if you don't want to go to church, just giving him a chance to help restore your life, I think can be a miracle. He's actually asks you to try him. I mean, so
take your hands off the wheel and give it to God.
So if you and I think if you were brought up in a really harsh religious background and you're done, you're burned out, you're not going back to that because you're in that puritanical family where they just whipped you. If you're going to go to hell, I think getting to know Jesus for who he really is, I think is a game changer, that it's literally nothing you need to do other than say yes. And all of a sudden you're flooded with these blessings and things start to change. It isn't overnight, but I think that's huge for anybody. And there's tons of studies on spirituality and medicine and spirituality and outcomes. And so 100% probably the biggest hack right there,
Yeah. Yeah. Find your faith.
Yeah. As far as testosterone, for those who understand its value, but don't necessarily want to take testosterone replacement, there's a number of natural ways to boost your testosterone, men and women. So heat, sun, There's even a study of people that were stunning their testicles. Okay. So boost your testosterone. Meat. I have one patient who went to a keto carnivore lifestyle and took his testosterone from 300 to 600. Okay. So sun, steak, squats. I always call them
sun, steak, and squats, baby.
Squats, yep. So squats. So heavy muscle exercise improves your testosterone, right? So sun, steak, squats, sauna improves your testosterone.
Yeah.
Sex improves your more sex you're having, the more testosterone.
Yeah.
So I always say the S's, those are some easy things you can do to boost your own natural testosterone. There's a ton of things you can do. There's supplements you can take to boost your testosterone. I would not advocate for anybody buying their own testosterone boosting supplements over the counter. I wouldn't advocate for anybody for using like these online doctors that are I literally have been having people come to me from those, and then some of them are good, but some people aren't getting the results. Some people haven't had their blood work checked in a couple of years since they started. So there's a lot of shady actors out there, and I wouldn't just buy some supplement that's a testosterone booster. I've experimented with those before I actually got on testosterone pellets and replacement, and it led to a lot of mood swings and just undesirable effects. It's more than testosterone. There, some of these are like SARMs, and some of these are hitting different androgens. It's much less predictable. So, I hope that's helpful.
No, it is.
Okay,
I think that's great. I think this has been a great conversation. I think I think that people are going to get something out of this.
I hope
like
so.
A viable solution. If you're feeling like shit, if you want to get a little bit better, use the things that you just talked about.
Yeah,
or at least look to them and do some research and dive in.
Yeah.
Dive in.
And honestly, I'll just talk about where I was. If you would have come to me and asked, can we look at testosterone 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been scared of it, right? I don't know how to do it. I'm going to say no. I learned it was bad. And so you have to understand that you probably have an awesome provider, an awesome nurse practitioner, or an awesome physician. But they may not be up to date and on what is new and current. So do your own research, do your own literature. You might even want to bring them, information if hey, here's this article I pulled that shows, that testosterone is good for you or whatever, and just help them, because I think we're in a state of transition. I think we're starting to see, I could be wrong. And I think a lot of my colleagues will probably say I'm crazy. But I think we're in a state of transition where we're going kind of like Botox, where it used to be the rich and elite. Now, like 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds are the biggest consumer of this thing. Yeah. It's almost like makeup now. I think for our health, it's going to become almost like vitamins. Like, oh, you're not on testosterone? Well, why not?
Yeah.
That's my prediction. Prediction. Yeah.
To your point, everybody being 3 or 4 years behind. I mean, that's literally me now. I had no idea of all the benefits that it had. You always think about it like risk versus reward, but Absolutely. What is the risk of not using it? Well, what kind of life are you limiting yourself to?
Absolutely. And then there are health risks to the low testosterone state that America has achieved. Right?
Yeah.
But I just don't want it to be like, this is not my message whatsoever. I don't know anything more than the next doctor out there. All of the doctors out there, whether they tell you need testosterone or want or no, are usually good people who are in it to help you. And so I'm just saying that they may not agree with what I'm saying. And if you want help with that, I'm happy to help. But I do not want to slag on other doctors. There's a lot of them who think I'm absolutely crazy for pushing this testosterone. I think Dr. Kettman is wacko because he's pushing us testosterone to everybody. And I think that's too much. And that's fair and that's valid. And I do not want this to be I know more than them. I'm doing better than them. Nothing like that whatsoever. I just want to open the conversation. And if there are people who have different opinions about this, I'm happy to have that discussion. I'm just saying from where I've come from that I understand. And I used to be that way. And just what I've seen, I want to share that. So I want this purely to be not I'm better than anybody, but rather this is what I've learned in my personal journey in the last 3-4 years. Well,
yeah. And hey, man, you are an absolute resource. Where can people find you?
Well, so I've got a website I'm working on. It's kettmanmd.com. It's not as developed as I would like it to be at this time. Kettman Family Practice. We're right on Ridgeway. I've got the best team. It's incredible. I've got, I think there's a total of, what do we have now? 5 nurse practitioners that are handpicked because of how quality they are and how caring they are. And I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of all my nurses, my front desk. I think we just have an amazing team there. And if you're not interested in switching your care or applying to switch your care, but keeping your family doctor, but working with me or us on testosterone, then you would come to my Evolve, my aesthetics and regenerative center, where we do some of the hormone pelleting and work with other doctors' patients all the time. We just do that for them. And that's over by ADI by Tower Park. So
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for
Thank you. This has been great. I love what you do for people. By the way, I just wanted to say I love your family. So your son's awesome. He's so rambunctious. I love that kid. That's amazing. So thank you for bringing me into your home. This is awesome. I love what you do. I think that you have a great message. I think that you're really, really one of the few people really trying to help people in this world that we're in. And so kudos to you.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Appreciate you. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, I want to thank you with all my heart. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps us out. If you have questions about getting sober, parenting, or personal growth, email Nick at domesticdadproject.com with any questions about cleaning up the messes you've made. And if your question is discussion worthy, we'll feature it in an upcoming episode. Don't forget, you can watch any of these videos uncut and unedited, filmed in my studio from our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Domestic Dad Project. Also, please follow us on Facebook or share this episode on your social media. You can also join our community by grabbing some merch. It means the world to me to know that this podcast is making a difference in someone's life. And if this episode inspired you to get sober or simply become a better version of yourself, you can claim your free 60-minute coaching session by visiting www.domesticdadproject.com. Let's continue supporting each other to break the stigma around dads reaching out for help, to get our lives on track while navigating the obstacles of fatherhood. Until next time, keep cleaning up the mess.